They don't say it out loud, but you can feel it. People shift when you walk into the room. Their smiles tighten, their laughter fades. Conversations die mid-sentence. It's not because you are rude or arrogant or even doing anything wrong. It's because there's something about you, an invisible intensity they cannot explain, but cannot ignore. You ask deep questions. You listen closely. You speak with purpose. And when you look someone in the eyes, they look away. You have been told you are too serious, too intense, that you overthink everything. But what if you are not too much? What if, just like Carl Jung believed, your presence is charged with something far more powerful? An aura, not the fluffy kind, but a psychological force, a silent energy that challenges others without saying a word, because people are not afraid of you. They are afraid of what you reflect back to them, their own insecurities, their own fears, their own masks. And so, they withdraw, they avoid, they gossip, they shrink themselves, just to feel safe around you. Not because you are dangerous, but because your energy is honest. And honesty, it unsettles people who are used to pretending. Carl Jung devoted much of his life to understanding the powerful psychological energy that emerges when someone confronts their shadow and embraces their authentic self. In this video, we uncover 13 signs that your presence may be quietly overwhelming to those around you, not because something is wrong with you, but because genuine, uncommon energy can be unsettling in a world that has grown comfortable with conformity. Most people imagine an aura as something mystical, a glowing field of colors surrounding the body. But Carl Jung approached the idea from a far deeper psychological perspective. To Jung, an aura wasn't made of light. It was made of energy, not energy that can be measured scientifically, but the kind of presence you can instinctively sense. He believed every person projects a subtle yet powerful form of psychic energy, shaped by their thoughts, emotions, and especially their unconscious mind. And that energy can communicate something about you long before you ever say a word. It shows up in the way you walk into a room, in the way people react to you without knowing why, in the vibe you carry, even in silence. Jung called this influence the unconscious transmission of the self, and it comes from the parts of you most people ignore or suppress: your shadow, your pain, your truth. The more you confront those hidden parts, the more your energy changes. You begin to carry a different kind of presence, a presence that is not shaped by social masks or shallow approval, but by self-awareness, depth, and inner alignment. People can sense it, even when they cannot put it into words. They notice something different about you in the emotion behind your eyes, the calmness within your silence, and the quiet intensity of your presence. Jung believed that this kind of energy could unconsciously unsettle others, not because you are intentionally doing anything wrong, but because your presence can reflect back the parts of themselves they have spent years trying to conceal: their insecurities, hidden fears, and carefully constructed personas. This is why people might keep their distance, why they might misjudge you, why they might feel intimidated, even if you are soft-spoken and kind. Your aura, the energy of your real self, is speaking directly to their unconscious, and not everyone is ready for that conversation. Understanding this idea is key to everything Jung taught, that we are not just minds or bodies, we are fields of psychic influence, living symbols, walking mirrors. And the more honest you become with yourself, the more intense your aura becomes to others. People often tell you that you're too intense. Even when you're simply being honest, you speak from a place that goes deeper than most. You're not trying to impress anyone or take control, you're trying to create a genuine connection. Yet somehow, your words seem to reach places others would rather leave untouched. You say what people are afraid to admit, uncover what they keep buried, and bring truth into spaces built around comfortable illusions. And that can make people uneasy. They call you too serious, too much, or too deep. But what they're really saying is, you make me confront feelings I'm not ready to face. Carl Jung believed that some people carry energy that awakens the unconscious in others. It forces them to confront the truth about themselves, about life, about their carefully constructed identities. So when you speak, it's not just words, it's energy, it's presence, it's depth. And for people who live on the surface, that feels like a threat. Your intensity is not aggression, it's not arrogance, it's emotional honesty, and very few people can hold it without flinching. Small talk can feel surprisingly exhausting. You notice the emptiness of scripted conversations almost immediately, the usual questions about the weather, work, or what show someone watched last night. It's not that you're being unfriendly. You still smile, listen, and respond. But beneath the surface, something in you quietly pushes back, craving conversations that feel more genuine, meaningful, and real. Jung believed that people with a strong connection to their unconscious feel repelled by inauthenticity, and small talk often serves as a shield, a way to avoid real connection. So when you're in those conversations, your aura sends a different signal. This isn't real. Let's talk about something that matters. But that energy disrupts the script. It breaks the social illusion, and people sense it. Even if you never say a word, they might see you as standoffish, cold, or antisocial. But the truth is, your soul is starving for realness, and your aura makes that hunger visible. You attract confessions and emotional dumping. Strangers tell you their life story. Friends come to you when they're breaking down. You've been called a therapist more times than you can count, even though you never asked for it. This may be more than coincidence. Jung suggested that some people embody an unconscious healer archetype, even if they have never worked in a healing profession. There is a depth and calmness in your presence that can make others feel emotionally safe, sometimes enough to make them open up to you, even when they barely know you. But there is a painful paradox. You may rarely feel truly understood in return. You listen to others, give them space, and carry emotions they struggle to hold themselves. Yet very few people stop to ask what you are carrying. Over time, this can create a unique kind of loneliness, being surrounded by other people's emotions while still longing for genuine connection. Your presence may naturally draw people who are hurting, while simultaneously unsettling those who are afraid to confront the darker parts of themselves. People seem to avoid eye contact with you. You walk into a room and you feel it. People shift, they glance, then look away. They talk softer. They act different. It's subtle, but unmistakable. Sometimes they avoid you altogether. Other times they stare, as if they're trying to figure you out, but say nothing. Carl Jung suggested that when a person has confronted and integrated the parts of themselves that others continue to suppress, their presence can unconsciously reflect those hidden aspects back to them. Your eye contact, then, becomes more than simple social interaction. It can feel like a deeper psychological encounter. They aren't only looking at you, they may be confronting something within themselves. And when people aren't prepared to face that reflection, they may pull away, become uneasy, or describe you as intimidating. Even when you're being completely kind, your presence can seem to demand authenticity without you ever asking for it. Because sometimes the energy you carry communicates more than your words ever could. Your presence triggers strong reactions. Without you doing anything, you're just sitting there, saying nothing, doing nothing out of the ordinary, yet someone reacts. They get defensive, irritated, or weirdly cold, and you're left wondering, what did I do? Carl Jung believed that when someone carries a powerful integrated energy, it disturbs the unconscious of those around them, especially those who are hiding from parts of themselves. Your presence acts like a mirror. People see parts of themselves reflected in you, parts they don't want to acknowledge. Their insecurity, their shame, their envy. You don't even have to speak. Your energy does the talking. This is the silent power of a developed aura. You don't need to command attention because your very existence challenges others to confront who they really are. And most people, they don't like what they see. You can't tolerate fake personas, and people feel it. You've never been able to stand masks, the fake laughter, the shallow personas, the endless need to perform. You see through it instantly. You feel it in your gut before your mind even catches up. This sensitivity isn't judgment, it's perception. Jung believed that confronting and integrating the shadow, the hidden and rejected parts of ourselves, can lead to a deeper sense of psychological wholeness. From this perspective, becoming more aware of your own inner contradictions may also make it easier to notice when others are presenting a version of themselves that feels disconnected from who they truly are. So when you're around someone who is constantly performing or pretending, your presence may seem to communicate something without saying a word. You don't have to keep pretending. I can see what's underneath. And not everyone is comfortable with that kind of awareness. Some may become nervous, defensive, or simply distance themselves and call you intense. not necessarily because you are exposing them, but because your authenticity can make it harder for their carefully constructed image to feel convincing. You make people second-guess themselves. You ask questions that others avoid. You challenge assumptions. You don't accept normal just because it's common. And because of that, people second-guess themselves around you. They get flustered. They doubt what they say. They try to justify things they normally wouldn't even think about. This isn't about arrogance or manipulation. It's about the psychological impact of being deeply self-aware. Jung believed that someone who develops a strong sense of inner awareness can naturally challenge the assumptions of the collective. Your clarity can make other people notice their confusion. Your calm can reveal their anxiety, and your confidence in yourself can highlight the doubts they try to hide. You don't have to argue, dominate, or prove that you're right. Simply remaining authentic can be enough to shake the certainty of people whose beliefs depend on appearances and validation. In a world where many people protect their egos at all costs, that kind of quiet self-awareness can feel surprisingly threatening. People open up to you, then pull away. They tell you their secrets. They say you understand them like no one else. For a moment, it feels like a real connection. Then suddenly, they vanish. They stop texting. They become distant. And you're left wondering, what just happened? This emotional whiplash isn't your fault. It's the shadow at work. Jung taught that when someone feels truly seen, not just flattered, but understood at their core, it awakens parts of them they've spent years avoiding. Your aura didn't hurt them, it revealed them. And that can feel terrifying for someone not ready to face their pain, trauma, or deeper truth, so they pull away. Not because you did something wrong, but because you unknowingly unlocked a door they weren't ready to walk through. You didn't break the connection. You made it too real. You intimidate people without trying, especially authority figures. You walk into a room, and suddenly the power dynamic shifts. Your boss gets defensive. That loud, dominant person quiets down. People who are used to controlling the narrative start stumbling. You didn't do anything, but your energy says, I'm not easily controlled. Jung believed that those who have integrated their inner power, their inner king or queen archetype, radiate a quiet sovereignty. It doesn't scream. It doesn't posture. It simply is. And that kind of presence threatens anyone who builds their identity on dominance or control. You might notice that people in authority either respect you deeply or subtly resent you, because without saying a word, your aura communicates. You don't hold power over me. And for those who rely on fear or status to maintain control, that's the most unsettling thing you could ever say. You walk into someone's life with kindness, with honesty, with no hidden agenda. But somehow, you become the villain in their story. They accuse you of being arrogant, cold, too intense, too emotional. They twist your silence into judgment, your self-respect into ego, your solitude into rejection. This isn't about you, it's about projection, a concept Carl Jung emphasized as one of the most dangerous blind spots in human relationships. When people are unwilling to confront their own flaws, they unconsciously project them onto others. And people with strong auras, deep, developed, spiritually attuned auras, become the perfect screen. Because your presence reflects what they're trying to hide. You didn't become the villain, you just refused to play the victim. And that disrupted their narrative. Strangers can feel strangely drawn to you without understanding why. It might happen in a grocery store, an airport, or even a quiet waiting room. Someone you've never met suddenly starts talking to you as if you've known each other for years. They share something deeply personal and sometimes even admit, I don't know why I'm telling you this. There's no forced small talk, just unexpected honesty and raw emotion, as though they somehow sense that you were someone they could finally open up to. Jung believed that certain people possess what he described as numinous energy, a presence that goes beyond ordinary charisma or charm. It is more like a quiet gravity of the soul, something others can sense without fully understanding. People may feel unusually safe around you, deeply seen, or mysteriously drawn toward a presence that feels ancient and meaningful. Your aura can seem like a silent lighthouse, guiding people without you ever intending to. You don't have to be religious or searching for anything yourself. Sometimes, your inner presence simply radiates outward, and those who feel lost, wounded, or searching for meaning may instinctively sense it as a quiet invitation to come closer. You can feel the energy of a room instantly. You step inside and within seconds, you know what's off. You feel tension. You sense hidden resentment. You pick up the mask everyone's wearing before a single word is spoken. To others, it seems like you have a sixth sense, but in truth, it's your highly developed psychic attunement. Jung described this kind of awareness as psychological intuition, a form of unconscious intelligence that works beneath conscious reasoning and spoken language. You may not always need an explanation because you can sense when something feels genuine or deceptive. You don't simply notice the emotional atmosphere around you. You can sometimes absorb it. But this heightened sensitivity can be a double-edged sword. It may allow you to understand deeper layers of human behavior, yet it can also leave you vulnerable to emotional overwhelm. Your mind can function like an antenna, constantly picking up subtle signals that others aren't even aware they're sending. And if you aren't careful, you may find yourself carrying emotions that never belonged to you in the first place. You've always felt not of this world, and others feel it too. There's a loneliness in you that's hard to explain. Not the loneliness of lacking company, but the loneliness of being different on a soul level. Since childhood, you felt like an outsider, even among friends, even in your own family. It's as if you were born with ancient eyes in a world that only sees the surface. Carl Jung believed that certain people are driven by a deeper calling from the self, an inner force that pushes them toward growth, transformation, and psychological wholeness. These individuals often find themselves on the margins of society because they question beliefs that others simply accept and follow a path that feels deeply personal. Your presence may reflect that same sense of depth and mystery. There is something about you that can stir feelings. Others struggle to explain something ancient, unfamiliar, or profound. Some people may feel inspired by it, while others may feel unsettled or even afraid. But either way, your presence is difficult to ignore. Because when someone refuses to live entirely on the surface, they can become a reminder that life may be asking us to look deeper and perhaps to change. You've probably noticed the pattern more than once. You walk into a room and suddenly the atmosphere changes. People become more guarded, distant, awkward, or even unexpectedly hostile. And you're left wondering what happened. You didn't insult anyone, demand attention, or try to take control of the room. You were simply being yourself. But perhaps that is exactly what makes your presence so confronting. When someone carries authenticity, self-awareness, and emotional depth, it can unintentionally challenge the people around them. Your presence may bring their hidden insecurities, unresolved emotions, or buried parts of themselves closer to the surface, things they would rather not face. Carl Jung believed that each of us has a shadow, the hidden side of our personality, filled with traits we've repressed or denied. Most people spend their lives avoiding it, but when someone with an integrated aura walks into the room, the shadow gets triggered. Your presence silently communicates. I've faced myself. Have you? And for those who haven't, this is terrifying. Jung's central psychological journey was what he called individuation, the process of becoming your most authentic and complete self, by embracing both the light and the shadow within you. Yet most people never fully embark on this path because the ego, the identity we consciously construct, often fights against anything that threatens its sense of certainty. The ego doesn't necessarily seek truth, it seeks stability and control. It wants to believe, I'm a good person, I'm normal, I'm fine just the way I am. And when someone or something forces those beliefs to be questioned, the ego can interpret it as a threat. That's why authenticity, self-awareness, and deep honesty can sometimes make people uncomfortable. They challenge the identity they've worked so hard to protect. That may be what sets you apart. You aren't threatening because you're aggressive or trying to dominate others. You can feel threatening because you've done the difficult work of evolving. Your presence reflects someone who has questioned old beliefs, broken down false identities, and rebuilt themselves from the inside out. And that kind of energy can unintentionally expose people who are still holding tightly to their own illusions. Instead of looking inward and saying, I want to grow like that, they may find it easier to create distance and simply say, you're too much. We live in a world that rewards conformity and surface-level behavior, being loud, agreeable, trendy. These traits make people feel comfortable. But when someone walks in with silence, stillness, and soul depth, they break the unspoken social contract. People don't know how to categorize you. You don't play the usual games. You don't seek validation. Your very presence asks, what else is there? This creates emotional dissonance. The discomfort that arises when someone is forced to confront truths they've ignored. That dissonance quickly turns into repulsion or judgment, because it's easier to label someone as weird than to admit they're living with more clarity than I am. The depth you carry can act like a mirror, reflecting people back to themselves. For those who are open and self-aware, that presence can feel magnetic. They're drawn to your insight, your calmness, and the sense of authenticity you bring into a room. But for those who are still struggling with inner conflict, that same presence can feel uncomfortable or even intrusive. They may not want to confront their own confusion, insecurity, or denial, so they create distance. They withdraw, become defensive, or reject you, not necessarily because you've done something wrong, but because your authenticity makes it harder for them to hide from themselves. Your presence can be a gift, but sometimes that gift comes with a certain kind of solitude. Jung's work emphasized that one of life's greatest achievements is becoming the person you genuinely are. But that transformation rarely comes with constant praise or approval. It demands courage, honest self-reflection, and the willingness to walk through periods of deep solitude. The presence you carry can reflect the inner work you've done, not because you are superior to anyone else, but because you have become more integrated and whole. And true wholeness is uncommon. It can be misunderstood by those who haven't begun their own journey, and sometimes what feels like authenticity to one person can feel threatening to another. But the truth is, the more people pull away, the closer you move toward the self, and the more aligned you become, the more light you carry into a dark world, even if it blinds some eyes. If you've stayed until this point, there's something you need to remember. You are not broken, you are not too much, and you are not the problem. You simply experience things more deeply. You notice patterns others overlook, feel emotions others dismiss, and ask questions that make people uncomfortable. Not because you're trying to challenge or provoke anyone, but because something within you is always searching for what is real. And sometimes, seeing the truth clearly comes with a price. Carl Jung believed that walking the path toward wholeness, the path of individuation, is not a journey the masses are willing to take. It's lonely. It's disorienting, and it often means walking through life misunderstood. But here's the paradox. The very thing that isolates you is what proves your depth. The discomfort you feel in shallow conversations, the urge to detach from toxic dynamics, the pain of being too intense, too quiet, or too deep. These are not flaws. They are signs that you are evolving, because when your aura expands, the world shrinks. Most people grow up inside a mold, shaped by expectations, being taught who they should become, how they should behave, and even what they should feel. But your path may have always felt different. Perhaps you were never meant to simply blend in. You were meant to become more aware of who you truly are. And awakening often brings resistance, not only from society, but sometimes from the people closest to you. Not because they are necessarily bad, but because your growth can remind them of the parts of themselves they have avoided confronting. Your authenticity can become a mirror they never asked to see, and a light they may not yet be ready to follow. But even when others turn away, you don't have to dim yourself to make them comfortable. Jung is often associated with the idea that a lonely day can be an invitation to spend time with yourself. Perhaps that is the deeper meaning of isolation. It may not be a punishment, but a period of preparation, a chance to develop greater wisdom, inner strength, and clarity that can only emerge in solitude. And maybe when your presence unsettles certain people, it isn't because there is something wrong with you. Perhaps your authenticity speaks to something they recognize deep within themselves, even if their conscious mind isn't ready to understand or confront it. So don't make yourself smaller. Don't hide your sensitivity, silence your intuition, or apologize for the depth and intensity you carry. You were never meant to reshape yourself just to make others comfortable. You are here to live with courage, authenticity, and inner strength. Some people may feel unsettled by your presence, but the right people will experience something completely different. They'll feel understood, safe, and empowered simply by having you around. Because what you carry is more than energy, it's a quiet invitation toward truth, authenticity, and the possibility of becoming fully alive. So the next time someone tells you that you're too much, just smile and remember, you were never too much. You were simply something they weren't prepared to understand. You're not too much, you're rare.